Hello and welcome. Good evening, everyone. Today, we're going to be looking at the state of Connecticut. How to find the right HELOC in Connecticut. For those of you that are tuning in live, I'm going to ask for your support, your active engagement. If you will, open up a tab on your computer or phone and let's do some research together, because I was doing some research before I went live. I was actually having some difficulty finding banks in Connecticut that offer a not just any HELOC, but the right home equity line of credit structured properly with the right incentives. I've only found 2 banks so far, so we'll dive right into it. And again, would love your active engagement and participation. Maybe with your research, my research, maybe we can find some other banks. I'll let you know what I'm typing in and we can try to like tweak it a little bit. For now, I found 2 banks in the state of Connecticut: Members First Credit Union and a bank called El-Afi or El-Afi. I don't know how to really pronounce it. I low-key want to say El Alfa, but that's like a Spanish singer, so we're not going to do that. So it's this El Afi Federal Credit Union. Both are offering really good incentives and meet most of my criteria based off of what I can pull off the website. Like I always say in a lot of my videos, it's important to know your numbers, know where you stand. And as it pertains to doing research, finding the right home equity line of credit, finding the right debt tool, once you do your research and you've narrowed the banks down, you're going to want to call the bank directly to verify. Trust the information that I'm sharing with you, but verify the information. Hear it right from the bank directly, because you never know if they're going through updates or changes. The websites may be out of date sometimes. In this series that I've been putting together, we're going state by state until we cover the whole United States to find the best home equity lines of credits in second position in every state. Once we've completed that, then we'll do a deep dive on PLOCs. We'll look at personal lines of credits. Then we'll also do first lien HELOCs. A little bit easier with first lien HELOCs because they're so rare. Not that many banks offer first position home equity line of credit. And the way the product is structured is very, very different. So my framework is not going to be the same as the action items that I have here on the left-hand side of the board. So let's just go through it real quick. I want to see you at a credit score of 720 or higher. Debt to income ratio, I want that to be 30% or less. No more than 45%. Where it starts to get a little high with banks is once you cross over the 40% threshold. 45% tends to be the cutoff. So you really don't want to be near 45%. That's automatically going to put you in a different borrowing tier bracket with the banks. LTV options, loan to value, 70 to 90% is typically what you will find, although some banks go as high as 95 to 100%. Then you have closing costs, okay? Preferably, I want 0 or low closing costs, $500 or less. In most cases, with a lot of home equity line of credits that we've covered in this series so far, we found plenty of banks that do 0 closing costs. Then we have intro rates, anywhere from 6 to 12 months is what you will commonly see. And some rare cases you'll see fixed rates on home equity line of credits, not home equity loans, but home equity line of credits between 3 and 5 years, ranging 1.99% to 5.99 on the intro rates. And then with 3 to 5 year fix, it's typically in this economic environment, 2025 for context, around that 5-6% range. As of September 2025, we're at a prime interest rate of 7.25%. That is a very helpful number to know when you're doing your research, because part of my framework is understanding how your interest rate is calculated with the HELOC and the bank that you're choosing. So there's only three options. You're either going to be at a prime, prime minus, or prime plus. I put an X under prime plus because I want to avoid banks that are charging me extra points to use their product, when there are other banks that happily give me a prime flat 7.25 rate, or whatever prime's at, or even better, prime minus. So it doesn't matter wherever interest rates are, I'm always going to be below that. That means I'm always borrowing at a competitive rate compared to every other loan product that's pretty much out there. Draw period 10 years is what you'll see on average. Some go as high as 20. The shortest draw period is 5 years. And as we close out on my framework here, it's important to build a relationship with the bank that you are going to do business with. That means becoming a member, opening up a checking and savings, moving your paychecks over there, moving your savings. Very important you do that in advance of applying, so that when you get the HELOC in place, you're able to have velocity, you're able to just get going right away, and there's not much of a delay. Mobile banking is important. That increases velocity. So that just simply means, with this home equity line of credit, do I have the ability to transfer money in and out of the HELOC to a checking account and checking back to the HELOC instantaneously via an app on my phone or on a computer tablet? Okay, extremely important. If I can only access the equity in my HELOC via checks, that's very inefficient for velocity banking purposes. Lastly is the payment calculation. This is to verify that you are looking at a HELOC and not a home equity loan. So many people get that confused. They think the two are interchangeably used, which it makes sense because the banks use home equity line of credit and home equity loan in the same sentence. And the fact of the matter is, a home equity line of credit is a loan. It's under the loan family of products. But the key difference is where it says line. If you're dealing with a home equity line, it's revolving. You're able to put money in and take that same money right back out same day, instantaneously. Very, very important to understand that for velocity banking purposes. So revolving, then you're going to end up with two options. The way your payment is set up is either going to be interest only payments or principal and interest payments. More often than not, I'm steering clients toward the principal and interest payments if there is an incentive on the interest rate. So sometimes banks will give a higher incentive to select principal and interest payment option over interest only. If there's no incentive with that bank specifically, then you're fine going with the interest only HELOC. And there's technically no difference in the rate. Like if there's no difference, like if you're looking at a home equity line of credit at 7.25% and you choose interest only or principal and interest payments, there's no difference in that rate for that draw period, what you're going to pay. Some people get that confused. To give a little more clarity though, is the incentive part. If you're looking at a bank, XYZ bank, and they're offering 7.5% interest only or 7% principal and interest payments, prime minus 0.25%, then there would be a difference in cost. Okay, so you're going to be better off going with the principal and interest payments. From a strategy and perspective of becoming debt free, getting out of debt, and staying committed to it, The reason why I like principal and interest payments is it forces you to pay down the line of credit. When you have an interest-only HELOC, you've got to be mindful. You got to be committed to actually paying down that line of credit. That's usually not a problem when we're doing this particular strategy, but there are cases where people use HELOCs aggressively with no strategy and just only payments. And for some reason, they forget that payment is 100% interest. So they're just like blindly paying that payment, not realizing, hey, you're not doing anything to the balance. Okay? So that's important to understand. Now, on to our banks. Let's start with Missions First Credit Union. Missions First Federal Credit Union. They're offering a 4.5% intro rate for the first 12 months. Then it goes to a prime minus 0.25. So I would be at 7% in 2025. Very attractive. Okay. There's a lot of damage a lot of people can do right now if they consolidated some of their credit card debts, their maybe a car loan, maybe personal loan, maybe some student loans from double-digit rates or low digit rates, 8, 9, 9.5% to 4.5%. And when it jumps back up to 7% or maybe even less a year from now, because you have a variable interest rate HELOC, rates continue to come down, you benefit in that down, which is very valuable. So being at that prime minus 0.25, when you look at a debt, maybe you have a car loan at 6%, and you can temporarily move that 6 to 4.5, do Velocity Bank for 12 months. Let's say you don't fully pay the car off. So now it jumps to 7 on the HELOC. Are you still saving money on interest? Absolutely. Because you've already wiped out the vast majority of that interest cost at 6% by moving it into 4.5 if you do the strategy accordingly and correctly. And by the time you jump to 7, the actual remaining balance on the car is far less. So you're not actually paying 7% in a year. You pay a portion of that 7% in net amount of interest in that year or the remaining time left on that car debt. The other advantage is you immediately get the cash flow. So when you pay off a debt over here, throw it into a line of credit. When you're doing velocity banking, your paycheck parking into the line of credit, so you technically never have a payment to worry about on your HELOC. So 100% of that car payment now becomes principal pay down of the balance in the home equity line of credit. And then you draw to pay expenses. You no longer have a payment of $500, $600, whatever the car payment was. You're benefiting daily on the principal pay down of that HELOC while remaining liquid. So that's very valuable. Keep that in mind. So 10-year draw. Look it up, look at my framework. Watch how I compare everything. So we have an intro rate, 12 months, boom, 4.5. Prime minus, 10-year draw period, 10 years. No annual fee. No closing costs. So no closing costs plus no annual fee. That's nice. Mobile banking is the only question mark. So with Members First Credit Union, let's take a look at their website. I was not able to visually see if they have mobile banking. Now, I'm going to assume that they do because they have checking and savings accounts. So usually if the bank offers that product, you know you're dealing with a brick and mortar bank and not an online bank. When you're dealing with an online bank, sometimes you don't have the flexibility that you would have with a brick and mortar bank when looking at a home equity line of credit. Okay? For example, if you look up this bank, Figure offers what they call a home equity line of credit. Figure is a non-bank institution. It's an online bank. So they don't have a checking account on their website. They just have the HELOC. And so you still need to do business with another bank to actually access the equity of Figure's home equity line of credit. So what that would look like, to give you a visual, come back to the whiteboard. Let's say you have a HELOC with Figure for $150,000. In order to access that $150,000, you have to make a draw, transfer, electronic transfer to your bank, and let's just say you do business with Chase Bank. That's where you have your checking account. So you're going to have to wait 3 to 5 business days, let's say. The moment you make the transfer, you're being charged interest. So for 3 to 5 days, you don't see your money. You're being charged interest for those 3 days. By the time it hits your bank account, now you're going to go pay off debt with the money that you withdrew. And then you consolidated it into the HELOC. This is a very slow process because by the time you make the payment, doesn't that usually take 1 to 2 days for it to reflect? So that's 1 to 2 more days of interest on top of the 3 to 5 business days that you waited. It landed in the money by the time you saw it land, and then you decided to make the payment. Maybe you waited another day or two because you work and you're busy and you have a life. So now the debt's paid off. Now that balance is in here. That takes a day or two to process. And you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting. Then when it's time to make a payment, when you get income lands into your checking account. When it's time to make a payment, how long does that take? What, 2 days? 3 days? What if you made the payment on a Saturday? What if you made a payment on a Friday evening? Doesn't register till Monday in some cases. So now you're waiting. There's so many days out of the month that you're paying interest on this HELOC that we could have completely avoided had you did this, had you done this, had you watched the videos, do the work that's involved. But many of us don't do the work. We find out later and we end up with this problem. So point of this series that I'm putting together is to help you guys save thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in lost money, interest opportunity lost daily because you're using the wrong tools. So often we're using the wrong tools. So now we come back. We're looking at Members First Credit Union. This is what we read on their site. No closing costs for HELOCs over $10,000. So we just got to make sure we have a $10,000 or higher credit line. No annual fees. 10-year draw. 15 years to repay. 4.5% is an awesome incentive. Prime minus 0.25. Love that. Like that a lot. And yeah, I kept reading through all of this, and I just didn't see the verification that they're mobile banking friendly. Again, I would assume they are because they have a checking account. They do have a mobile app, so that kind of gives it away, online bill pay. So now that's not in question. So I just answered my own question just by clicking around a little bit. I was looking at other banks, man, but I couldn't put them on the board because they just weren't competing with the two that I had so far. So I was looking at this bank, Connecticut Firefighters Federal Credit Union, 10-year draw, interest only, no annual fee, 80% loan to value. But we look at their interest rate, no closing costs, so that's cool. Minimum, they go max 250. View rates. We come over to view rates. There. So it's just that prime. So it's not terrible, but there's no additional incentives beyond that. Okay? No additional incentives beyond that. It's not horrible, it's just not going to make it on the board right now. Now, if we just wanted to fill the board, then I would put Firefighters Federal Credit Union on here. But in the meantime, it's just not going to make it on the board. Then we have this other bank, Sikorsky Credit Union. Same thing. 250 max credit line, no closing costs, no annual fee, 80% LTV. That's cool and all. Rates as low as 7.5%. So that's prime plus 0.25. So if anything, the Firefighters Credit Union would make it on the board before this bank would. So I skipped over them. Then I found Elafi. Don't know how to pronounce them. But here we go. Prime minus 0.25%. You get a credit card attached to the HELOC, which implies mobile banking friendly. No closing costs, no annual fees. We like that. That's cool. Prime minus, you can see that there. It says rates on home equity line of credits will be increased by 0.5% if the line amount is less than $25,000. So the requirement to get the best rate with this bank is a little bit higher. So you're going to want to make sure, if you're in Connecticut, you want to make sure you've got plenty of equity in the house beyond 25,000. So it made it on the board because of that prime minus, the no closing, no annual fees. What other information did I pull from here? Just trying to find more stuff. I think I went here. Yeah. So I went here. There's their home equity loans. Let me see. There's somewhere on here, I can't remember where, but they require a 700 credit score. So the credit score requirement's a little bit lower than my standard, so that's another benefit. No, there it is. So 80% LTV, credit score 700 or higher. Okay. Then I kept looking around, found this bank, North Jersey Federal Credit Union. I don't know why it popped up, but I'm guessing that maybe this bank covers Connecticut. Let's see. I don't think so, actually. Yeah. Don't know why it popped up, but if you're in the state of New Jersey, very attractive rate. Prime minus 0.5% with an 8-year draw. Very attractive. So that's a little bonus if you're in Jersey. So this is what I was looking up. Credit unions in Connecticut that offer a home equity line of credit. And was not finding much, let me tell you. All right, let's see what Nutmeg is doing. Nutmeg State Federal Credit Union. Let's see. Will they make it to the board? Let's see. Let's see. HELOC. No closing costs is cool. No annual fees. We like that. View our rates. 7.5. Not that attractive. So I guess for now, we'll put firefighters on the board because it's coming in at prime. So CT firefighters credit union, and it's at prime. So again, can't use this bank. No big incentive here. Yeah, so we'll hop out of there. We've seen LIEN Bank come up a few times because they cover multiple states. Is this an online bank? Hold on. Oh yeah. Hold on. Can't like go anywhere. Let's try this. Okay, that's better. So let's see if LIEN covers Connecticut. So when you're in a state like Connecticut and we're just not finding a whole lot of in-state credit unions, this gives us permission to go nationwide. Okay? And a bank like LIEN is going to be competing. So they do cover Connecticut. We have a plus or minus margin. It's not bad. If we come back up, what was the offer? 3.99 for 6 months. So not upset about that. Guess what that does to firefighters, right? It bumps it off the board in a sense, but just because it's a credit union that focuses on a specific career, firefighters, who knows? Maybe there is some kind of incentive And I've made that known quite a bit in my videos, that if you're a police officer, military, firefighter, nurse, first responder, sometimes certain careers have dedicated credit unions, and maybe you get like a backdoor rate, right? You get a backdoor lower interest rate if you can confirm that you're a firefighter in the state of Connecticut. Maybe you get a 0.25% reduction off your HELOC. That's a game changer. I would take that. I would probably jump on that. But since we don't know, we can only speculate. I'll keep it on the board for now, but we will put Alliant Federal Credit Union, I think. Alliant, or just a credit union. Okay. So we got 3.99, 6 months, goes to 7.5% after 10-year draw. Sometimes with the bigger banks, they will have some closing costs, but this one does say no closing. And I know that it is mobile banking friendly, so that's helpful. 250K max on the second lien, HELOC. See what other information I can find. Do they have an annual fee? So they do 85% LTV. Let's see. Let me share screen so we can read together. So I would like to find out about this. It says plus or minus a margin. Loans with automatic payment selection from an Alliant are subject to an increase in rate and margin. What? Oh, loans without automatic payment. Got it, got it, got it. So I guess that's how we get below to a potential flat prime rate or prime minus, is when you have automatic payments. So that's important. Okay, they do have an annual fee. So the annual fee will be waived first year, but will be assessed in subsequent years. Interesting. You will incur the annual fee even if you don't have a balance. Okay, cool. So annual fee, $50. Not a big deal. I'm usually not a stickler on the annual fee. Do me a favor, again, if you're present, let's help Connecticut out and let's do research together. Type in credit unions in Connecticut that offer a home equity line of credit. See what you find. See if your research, if other banks pop up that don't pop up for me. Let's see what this bank is doing. Scient. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Might have something attractive here. What do we got? What do we got? No closing, no annual. Variable rate low as prime rate minus 0.5. Uh-oh. There you go. We just found something really attractive. Good job. Good job, everybody. Good job. Good job. So we just got another bank that just made it to the board. Another bank I don't know how to pronounce. I want to say science, but it's science. Science. Federal Credit Union. We have 5.99, 12 months. We have, it says 100% LTV, but you got to be careful. We're gonna keep reading to see if the rate changes, you know what I'm saying, right? We're gonna be mindful of that. So it's mobile banking friendly, no closing costs. We like that. Obviously, this is a big one. It's at prime minus 0.5%. So even though members first is 4.5, I'm at a 0.25 discount compared to that 5.9, right? So which one would you rather have? Would you rather go with members first and get the lower rate for the 12 months? Remember in other videos, how do we decide between that? It's gonna boil down to your numbers. Depending on how much debt you have, this might be a more short-term option. If you can get rid of a lot of debt, you might want to go with the lower rate. And you're still at a healthy rate afterwards, prime minus 0.25. Or if you have more long-term debt, it's going to take you a little bit longer to get out of debt. Maybe you do the 5.9 and get the prime point minus 0.5%. That's ultimately going to help you decide between the two. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So the 100%, that's what they try to sell us with, but you're going to want to focus on 80% LTV, because at 80% LTV with a max credit line of 250 is what's going to get us that lower rate. Okay. So at prime minus 0.5%, we're going to be at 6.75% when it's all said and done, or lower a year from now. So prime minus 0.5, Scient Federal Credit Union has made it to the whiteboard. Successful. There is hope for Connecticut. I'm liking what I see. Let me just verify that they're in Connecticut. Because sometimes, based on, okay, yeah, they're in Connecticut. Cool. Yep. Nice, very nice. Like that. Got to keep your HELOC open for 2 years to avoid paying any closing costs. And we have a $5 minimum membership fee. No biggie. No biggie. All right. What else can we find? Can we find another one? Dutch Point Credit Union. What do they got? Convertible home equity line of credit. Convertible first lien position. Interesting. The word convertible. What am I converting? Whoa, wait a minute. Ladies and gentlemen. Does that say prime minus 2%? Is there something wrong with my eyesight? There's something wrong with my eyesight? Dutch. Whoa. Let's verify. Let's trust, but verify. Whether it's creating a space for special moments or handling life's expenses, our convertible HELOC gives you the flexibility to tap into your home's value with a prime. Let me see a comment. Y'all see this, right? The minus. I'm not imagining things. Prime minus 2% introductory rate. Okay, that might be the thing. Okay. Okay. That's not. Ooh, Dutch. That is a trickery of using the word prime. Very interesting how they did that. Wait, hold on. Fixed rate for 12 billing cycles. 5.25% APR. Then prime current variable rate 7.25. All right, you tricked me. All right. I mean, they're still going to make it to the whiteboard. They're still going to make it to the whiteboard. Because that is a pretty low introductory rate. 5.25 for 12 months, then it goes to just prime at 7.25%. Convert your balance to a fixed. Okay, that's why. No lock fees, no closing costs. All right, mobile banking friendly. Blah, blah, blah. Never higher. Fixed rate option. Lock in a fixed rate up to 3. Advances of blah, blah, blah. You can buy. Okay, so they do a max 350K, 75% LTV, or up to 150,000. There's a $50 inactivity fee. Interesting. Okay. We don't have to worry about that as Velocity Banking users. We're always going to be, for the most part, using our HELOC while in debt until we're out of debt. Then we can keep an eye on that. We'd have to find out what exactly does that mean. You'll need that. Okay. All right. They made it to the whiteboard. We like that. Let's put them on. Dutch Federal. I like the way they tricked us, man. That's why it's so important to read slow. Read slow. Dutch Point Credit Union. So 5.25, 12 months. Prime. After. We're going to say mobile banking friendly. No closing. We like that. I'm just going to write 75 to 80%. It wasn't as clear. And looks like they do go as high as 350,000 on the credit line amount. So what's the drop period? I don't know if I saw that. They didn't really give it away. So I didn't see a drop period. I'm gonna assume probably 10 years. Yeah. Not seeing nothing. Okay. Charter Oak Credit Union. 7%. No appraisal fees. Okay, 250. I'm not seeing an intro rate. Max 200,000. They got a fee. Don't love that. Those are the people that we would talk to that handle that department. So just because they have a prime minus 0.25, we could put them on the board. I mean, yeah, we could put them on the board. If I put firefighters credit union on the board, I gotta put this on the board, right? Because it's prime minus 0.25%. I just don't love the fees involved to get it. So Charter Oak. So they literally got one thing going for them. Charter Oak is prime minus 0.25%. That's literally the only thing they got going for them. What else? Ascend Bank. I've had clients use Ascend. Let's see what they're offering. Yep. Introductory rate, 12 months, 4.99. Max credit line, 500,000, 80% LTV. All access. No auto pay feature, 7.25. With auto pay, you get minus a margin of 7%. Somebody just made it to the board. Somebody just made it to the board. Guess who it is? Ascend. So that's cool. Based on what we have on the board, we've got some very nice competition going on. So we got 4.99, 12 months. Prime minus 2.5 with auto pay. $500,000 max credit line. 80% LTV. And did they have closing costs? Let me see. I already know that this bank is mobile banking friendly because I've had clients use them before. Okay, let's see. Okay, so when it comes to closing costs, we don't know. I'm gonna put a question mark. Closing cost, question mark. Annual fee, question mark. So now let's choose. Let's figure this out. The lowest intro rate option and longest intro rate period is Members First Credit Union at 4.5%, 4.5. 10-year draw, no annual fee, no closing costs. We we were able to remove the question mark of mobile banking. So they are mobile banking friendly. And then it goes to prime minus 0.25%. Very attractive, very attractive. Now, with members first, I'm going to take a look at them again to see if they show what their max credit line amount is. I didn't see that. Yeah. So with members first, we don't know what the LTV option is, and we don't know what the max credit line amount is with them. Has to be a minimum of 10,000 or more. So since we don't know that, the way you would choose another bank over members first on this board is the higher prime minus margin with Scient, right? The prime minus 0.5%, 80% LTV with a max credit line of 250. If you're someone that values having a larger credit line and members first goes up to 500,000 or 300,000 or more than 250, you might lean more toward this way. Plus you get that lower interest rate out the gate. With the Scient Federal Credit Union 5.99 for 12 months, no closing costs, you might say, I value having a lower margin, prime minus 0.5%. So I end up at 6.75. Then we had Dutch has a higher credit line, 350,000, 5.25% for 12 months. Then it just goes to prime. So there's no prime minus, just prime. That's not bad. We had Ascend, which was coming in more attractive than Dutch. So Ascend is 4.99, 12 months, prime minus 0.25 with auto pay with a max credit line of 500,000, 80% LTV. We just don't know if there's closing costs or an annual fee. So if there's no closing costs, no annual fee, Ascend is better than Dutch. So my top picks is either going to be members. They're like flirting between first and second place. So those are my top picks. We have Ascend and Dutch are the next two best banks. So they're fighting for third and fourth place, but those would be my next set of picks. And the only reason why you would look at Dutch and Ascend is for the max credit line purposes. Okay, max credit line purposes. Because why would you skip over Scient or members first when you could have got a lower intro rate or a lower prime minus margin? Why would you skip over to Dutch and Ascend? The reason why is you're going to get a higher credit line and still get a nice intro rate, 5.25 or 4.99. So that just kind of cancels out Charter Oak, right? They didn't really have an intro rate. Cancels out Alafi. They didn't have an intro rate, just the prime minus. The firefighters, unless you're a firefighter and you call, and if they give a additional prime minus 0.5% or something, then we may want to look at that. And then Allianz is in last place. 3.99 for 6 months, it's prime plus 0.25%. So Alliant would be the last bank that you would want to work with. Comparing to everything that's on the board here, Members First and Cyan Bank are delivering the most attractive options as of right now. With that being said, we are done for the state of Connecticut. So Connecticut is in the books. This is great information, Denzel. Thank you always for teaching us these important lessons. Absolutely. Some financial institutions credit account right away. Okay, that was my earlier statement with the example that I gave. Hello, Logan. How you doing? Stanley Jones, catching alive. Happy for you to be here. All right. So now, tomorrow, I will go live again. If you're not on my email list, you're going to want to click the very first link in the description below, joining the Finance Geek community, so you'd be notified via email when I'm going live. As long as you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, you hit the notification bell, you'll also get a notification on the YouTube app when I'm scheduled to go live. So I will let you know when I'm gonna go live tomorrow through email, and then once I post it publicly on the YouTube channel. For those of you that are like, okay, Denzel, you hit my state already, I'm already on it, or I'm already approved for a HELOC, I'm getting ready to go, I want to make sure I do this right, you're going to want to hire some accountability. You're going to want to hire a professional in this space to help you through the whole process. Be happy to be that guy. I'm taking on a few more families before the year is over. Okay, just a few more families before the year is over. I got about 40-ish spots remaining in my lifetime coaching program that I'm offering. And for those that are present during the live stream only, I drop a link in the chat and I'm offering a discount for those who show up, do the work, do the pregame work, do the action items, get the tool, get set up so that we can have a great launch. So I'm giving a $600 discount off my lifetime coaching program, only available if you attend a live stream. So that link will turn off once I hop out of the live stream. Once I turn it down, I'll wait a few minutes, but then I'll turn it off and I will keep making that offer for those who attend. You do the work. I want to reward you, especially if you've been following this YouTube channel for quite some time now, maybe even a couple of years, and you've been just preparing yourself for the strategy and you're finally ready to go. Don't make the mistake of thinking you can do this on your own. Some people do have success, no doubt. I've had those people that have tremendous success. That implies they've already had financial discipline coming into this. But the vast majority of people do not have a good financial foundation. So when you get enticed with a strategy like velocity banking, infinite banking, or any other financial strategy online, you think it's the strategy that's going to save your finances. No, no, no. You got to have a rock solid financial foundation first with clarity, and then a financial strategy is going to add acceleration to the user that already has a rock solid foundation. If you don't have that, it is well worth making an investment in coaching to develop that, so that when we implement strategies, we're not going to have FOMO, we're not going to get sold into things, we're not going to get scammed into things because we're chasing money or chasing a rate of return. With that, we're done. Great session, great class, students. I will see you tomorrow, and we're going to keep this rhythm going in terms of this series on how to find the right home equity line of credit in the United States. God bless you, Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll be talking soon. Bye now.